We're waiting on that. With all the excitement comes a lot of questions about the identity and the future of the party, including concerns about a perceived split between moderate and progressive members, a description that spans our own delegation in Congress. My next guest is in the middle of this debate. She serves as the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. Congresswoman Grace Meng represents parts of Eastern Queens and is also a member of the House Appropriations Committee. Welcome back to the program. Very good to see you.
Thanks, Errol. Good to be back.
I know it's fun to be in the majority, right? Is this your first time?
First time ever, yes.
Okay, so it's kind of nice, not bad, right? What about this question? I mean, some of the people who get a lot of the attention, and we're in the media, we go right along with it. We give a lot of attention to progressives who replaced other Democrats as opposed to maybe centrists or moderate Democrats who actually replaced Republicans.
Look, I think that the Democratic Party, our base is expanding, and we are looking for ways to welcome more and more new people. We are a very big tent party, and so I think that it is a blessing that we have this diversity of idea. Diversity is the strength of our Democratic Party. And so I don't see it as a sort of divide. I see it as a way to make us even stronger and to appeal to even more people.
Of the different poles of power within the Democratic Party, there's the House leadership, Nancy Pelosi, somewhat senior members like you on powerful committees like Appropriations. But there's another center of power that's evolving, which are the candidates themselves, right? And then there, of course, is the DNC, of which you are formally a part. I see, maybe not a tussle, but I see different messaging coming out of those different power bases.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to be involved in when I got involved with the DNC was that we actually learned to work together more. So whether our message and communication comes out exactly the same or not, at the very least, we need to be communicating to each other. We need to make sure that we are using our resources efficiently and appropriately. And so that has helped us use the fundraising money that we have earned in a lot more effective way and to go a lot farther for our candidates.
What do you anticipate happening next year, 2020? Everybody's going to talk about the presidency, but for Congress, what do you see happening?
Well, hopefully we maintain our House majority, and one of our top priorities is to help protect the incumbents that have won purple and or red seats. We have so many talented freshmen and cover all different parts of the spectrum, and we want to make sure that they're coming back to the House.
What would be, do you think, the party's response, or what will be the party's response to what I already see as an attempt to sort of drive wedges between members of your party, where they'll take a statement from a particular member, promote it as if it stood for the entire party, and then sort of almost dare or challenge or create a situation where others have to sort of contradict their fellow Democrat?
Well, I still think that it's really important for our party and our leadership to focus on the issues of improving legislation and policies to help the American people. We have not necessarily done as good of a job as we have in the past as Democrats to reach out to people in underserved communities, minority communities, new immigrant communities, and people in the rural areas, for example. And so my focus is to do that work and to make sure that we're reaching out to people.
Let me ask you about some business. You've been leading the fight to stop a citizenship question from being included in the U.S. Census. You actually got into a back and forth with Wilbur Ross, and he may or may not have been telling the truth when he was talking with you. You find yourself right in the middle of a very high-profile national debate. Where does that debate stand right now?
Well, I thought I asked a simple question to the Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross. I asked him if he had had any communication with anyone in the White House about adding the citizenship question. He told me he did not, and so he lied to my face, he lied to Congress, he lied to the American people. And so we await the result of the court case that's coming out soon. But regardless of that, we need to make sure that we are working with our community partners, our business partners, and all levels of government to ensure that New York has an accurate count for our people.
You lied under oath, right? I mean, there should be sanctions for that.
You lied.
Yeah. You have a bill you've introduced to lower the voting age from 18 to 16. Why? You got
Wow.
a 16-year-old?
I don't.
Teenagers?
Not yet. Mine are
Okay.
9 and 11. Well, look, this is a generation, our generation of high school, college students, and millennials have been through so much. These are our young people who have been fighting for climate change, to protect our environment. They've been advocating for gun safety in ways that my generation never had to deal with. And so we want to make sure that our policies right now are literally directly impacting their lives and will affect their futures. I think they certainly have a right to have a seat at the table. 16-year-olds work, they pay taxes, they should be allowed to cast a vote.
There's going to be a political response, of course. The Republicans will say, look, this is Grace Meng and the Democrats just trying to create more young voters who are more likely to vote Democratic. Let's put that aside. There is this other issue. We don't recognize criminal liability for 16-year-olds, in part because all of the science and the big argument was that their brains are not fully formed, they're not fully responsible. If they're not fully responsible in that dimension, how are they going to cast a responsible vote?
That's something that unfortunately is not necessarily the case across the country in all criminal courts. But 16-year-olds should be allowed to vote. They should be allowed to make, it's a very simple decision. They are impacted by these policies that we are affecting and changing, and so this is something that they should have a say in.
This is not a stunt, right? I mean, you're calling for
I
a
have
bill that would
Republican
be
support on this issue.
This was the first step toward amending the Constitution of the United States, which has not happened in a good 25+ years.
Right. This happened, I think, in 1971 when we actually did lower the voting age then from 21 to 18.
Right.
And so it
well,
would be
the issue at
along
the time was the
same path.
Vietnam War. I was there.
Yes.
And not in the war, of course, but I was reading the newspapers, and it was a big deal that you could be 18, 19, drafted, sent to the other side of the world, but you couldn't vote for the policies that led to those deployments.
Right.
That I understood. 16, I'm not so sure of. You know, I mean, kids are going to abolish homework. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to have candidates literally promising to do that.
We have had the opportunity to meet 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds from across the country, kids who have feared for their lives, kids who came from Parkland and schools across the country. They are advocating for serious and real change, and I think they deserve a seat at the table.
Well, some strictly local business within your district is the test prep industry. That is the pride of the community in some respects, and has helped one wave of kids after another score very high on the specialized high school SATs and get into the top schools and so forth. There's a fight raging over this. I was wondering what your thoughts are about
Sure.
this.
Well, I don't think every student that gets into these schools are a product of the test prep system, and it's not only in my district, it's across the city. Look, we all heard the results of this year's acceptance rates, especially for the top 3 schools, and they're heartbreaking. I was in a classroom yesterday where there were more black students in that one classroom in a Queens school than were accepted for the entire year of Stuyvesant. As a minority, I get it. However, we need to make sure to be inclusive. I did not appreciate, as an Asian American, the rhetoric that was used by the mayor and the chancellor when this issue was brought up last year. This is also an issue that needs to be addressed at the level of the state legislature. And we need to make sure we can achieve more equity for various communities, but certainly not by pitting communities against each other, and to include them in the process. You know, we have 4 Asian American state legislators in Albany right now, and we want to make sure that they have a seat at the table to make these much needed improvements for these schools.
Your state senator, or the state senator who overlaps with your district, John Liu, right?
Yes.
I mean, he chairs the New York City Education Committee, right? So believe me, he has a seat at the table.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And even if we address this issue fully, this is only helping less than 2% of the students across New York City. We need to make sure that our students from all different communities are better equipped from the age of elementary school as well.
As you know, this is not the first pass at this question. It comes up, has been coming up every year for a number of years.
Yeah.
If the promises of, hey, let's do more test prep, or let's improve some of the other high schools, or let's improve K-8, or let's fix the middle schools first, if that keeps getting said again and again and again, and the numbers continue to be single-digit entry to some of the top schools, then what?
It's not acceptable. The numbers are actually getting worse, as we've seen year by year. So I commit to you, as an Asian American who attended one of those high schools, that I am committed not to just the rhetoric, but to a solution, a collaborative process to make sure that we are making important changes.
What school did you go to?
I went to Stuyvesant. And we need to make sure that, for example, more Black students and Latino students are taking these exams and that they have equal preparation as all other communities.
Okay. All right. I will say goodnight for now. We'll look forward to seeing how all of this sort of settles out. Thanks so much, Grace Meng.
Thank you, Errol.
Let's take a short break here. Still ahead, for the first time in a